just a point of clarification. Senator Klobuchar referenced the shooter as he. Although police have identified a suspect, it's still unclear at this time what that person's gender is or how they identify.
Just when you think mainstream media can't get worse, they somehow manage to find a new low. We're going to break down the ensuing ideological fiasco over misgendering, a mass shooter that's plaguing mass media, and so much more on today's episode of the Brad vs. Everyone podcast, my daily show where we take on the craziest ideas from across the internet, our media, and our politics, all from an independent perspective. First, guys, I want to put a graph on screen. This is from Gallup, and it shows, it's from 2024, Americans' trust in media remains at a trend low. You can see from the graph that since about the year 2000, Americans across the political spectrum, but especially independents and Republicans, their belief that you can trust the mass media to report the news fully, accurately, and fairly has plummeted. Now we're going to talk about a totally unrelated phenomenon, which is the ideological capture in media that is so extreme that you now have mainstream media outlets apologizing and issuing corrections for misgendering a trans-identified school shooter. Yes, seriously. So this is reporting from Mediaite about NBC News. NBC issues correction after using the, quote, wrong pronoun for mass shooter. She used female pronouns. Yes, because shooting up school children is a very ladylike thing that females do all the time. More from this Mediaite story here, which was written by Charlie Nash. NBC News issued a correction on Friday after the news outlet used the, quote, wrong pronoun for Minneapolis mass shooter who killed 2 children and left over a dozen others injured during a shooting at a church last week. It's very interesting to me that they labeled this a correction and declared calling the biological male mass shooter he the wrong pronoun. Let's read. Correction, this is what they put in the NBC article. A previous version of this article used the wrong pronoun for the shooter. She used female pronouns, read the correction notice, added to an article written by 4 reporters for the outlet. The article had previously referred to the shooter, who identified as a transgender woman, with male pronouns. So, I can't be the only one who thinks this is insane. Like, how is this not a bigger deal in media? How are those 4 reporters not quitting? Right? If they tried to make me refer to a mass shooter as she, her, when it was a biological male, I would refuse. And if they did it anyway, I would demand my byline be removed. Like, what is going on here that they are just caving to this? This is absurd. You do not, but we can't dead name or disrespectfully misgender the person that killed school children for no reason. Sure we can. First off, they're dead and rotting in hell, so they have bigger problems to worry about than what pronoun they're being referred to. And secondly, we owe you no respect or no courtesy when you egregiously violate the social contract in this way. And then I am so confused because you have to understand, by labeling this a correction, they're saying that it is factually false to call a male he, him. What? Huh? Are we in the upside down world? Are they just doing propaganda now? And the most extreme ideology that a majority of the American public rejects is now treated as fact by the journalistic entities and newsrooms. And so much so that if you hold the mainstream viewpoint, that's not just an opinion, it's factually wrong and needs to be corrected. What does it mean to say the wrong pronoun? Is it wrong, according to NBC News, to call males he now? That's objectively, factually wrong. That's what we're going with. Seriously, it's not something, where some people might choose to use this pronoun, other people, it's a question of preference or choice. No, it's factually incorrect to call males he now. Guys, you have to understand, this is social arsenic. This is credibility self-immolation. It is the kind of thing that tells people that the people reporting the news to you are not like you, do not understand you, and frankly have contempt for you. And it is why trust in mass media continues to plummet. But this story actually gets crazier. We're going to go over the next part after this. If you've been living on credit cards to cover your gas, groceries, and bills, you know those interest rates are brutal. So why keep paying 20% interest or more to the banks when you could call my friends at American Financing today? They have mortgage rates in the 5s, and they are showing people every day how to keep more of their hard-earned money in their pockets and out of the hands of credit card companies. Right now, American Financing is helping homeowners save an average of $800 a month by using their home equity to wipe out high-interest debt, with no upfront fees, no obligation, and just a 10-minute call to a salary-based mortgage consultant. And here's the kicker. If you start today, you could delay 2 mortgage payments, putting more cash in your hands. So don't wait. Call American Financing now at 866-891-4811. That's 866-891-4811. 866-891-4811, or visit americanfinancing.net/Brad Polumbo. You'll be glad you did. Now, back to today's show. So, I'm not really sure it would matter to me either way, but what makes this scandal in media, like, oh, they misgendered, so ridiculous, is that the shooter may not even have still identified as transgender. Really. So more from Mediaite here. District Court gave approval for the shooter's name to be changed in 2020, acknowledging that they, quote, identify as a female and want her name to reflect that identification. However, according to the New York Post, which translated Russian Cyrillic writing in the shooter's journal, the shooter expressed regret about being transgender ahead of the attack. The shooter wrote, quote, I only keep the long hair because it is pretty much my last shred of being trans. I'm tired of being trans. I wish I never brainwashed myself, the shooter wrote. Quote, I regret being trans. I wish I was a girl. I just know I cannot achieve that body with the technology we have today. I also can't afford that. So again, this is a mentally disturbed person, and I really don't think you can draw meaningful conclusions about any community or movement or anything from the ramblings of a madman. Yes, I said madman, NBC News, not mad woman. But it's even crazier to be pronoun policing in the mainstream media like this when it's not even clear that the person still identified as a woman. To me, again, it doesn't matter because I don't care about your feelings. But like, even then, it doesn't even make sense on its own terms. And this is a serious question. I'd love to know the answer to this. These institutions, whether it's CNN or NBC News, that have a respecting pronouns policy embedded into their standards, is there any limit to that, right? Because here's some more details from the story. The shooter also reportedly wrote about being drawn to anthropomorphic animals due to feelings of self-loathing. I like feeling sexy and cute, but my face never matches how I feel. I hate my face, confessed. Maybe that's why I like furries so much. You can give yourself a new body and a face. So what if people identify as animals? Are they going to respect the pronouns, respect their truth? Like, obviously, I'm not saying that's the same as trans people or that that's even a very common thing, but I'm just trying to test, like, what is the limiting principle here? Is there any, or have mainstream media outlets actually gone in on the idea of unlimited self-ID to be respected and treated as undeniable factual truth at all costs, including the cost of their credibility? I don't know. You tell me. And it's not just one example. We talked about the CNN doing this the other day on the show, and now I'm going to play you guys an absolutely wild clip from NPR where they interviewed Senator Amy Klobuchar about the mass shooting that had happened in her state, by the way. And then the host felt the need to tisk the senator, essentially, and remind viewers that while Senator Klobuchar used he pronouns, the shooter may have not identified as a man. Listen to this clip from NPR.
And so there is that. There is, of course, the hate. You're going to find that this perpetrator, that this horrific offender, that
right.
It was all-purpose hate, right? He hated a lot of different groups. It wasn't one ideology or another.
We're going to have to leave it there. That is Senator Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota. Thank you very much for
Great
taking
to
the
be on,
time to
Elsa.
speak with us.
Thank you for thinking of us. Thank you.
And just a point of clarification, Senator Klobuchar referenced the shooter as he. Although police have identified a suspect, it's still unclear at this time what that person's gender is or how they identify.
It was not, in fact, unclear. They knew the suspect was a biological male, but because the suspect may have identified as a woman, you have NPR. I don't even know what to call this, but like pronoun scolding a senator over the person that just killed innocent children. No, screw your feelings. I don't care if that's disrespectful to you. You don't deserve respect as a villain like this who commits this kind of atrocity. And the idea that NPR is saying, well, we don't know how they identify, is just so indicative of the ideological rot and capture of that institution. And this is exactly why Trump was right to defund them and Republicans were right to defund them. They have every right to exist, but I should not be forced to subsidize this lunacy in any way, nor should you if it doesn't align with my values. And what we just listened to, yeah, my values are the opposite of that. I'm actually team disrespect the mass shooters. If y'all are team simp for the mass shooters and affirm their identity, we are not alike. And you can get your funding and your money from the people that are with you, the other Delulu crowd. Okay, y'all go over there, fundraise for yourself, but let me keep my money and keep it out of the hands of these radical ideologues masquerading as objective journalists. I think that's what bothers me about the NPR, the NBC News. It's like, I don't have an issue with so much left-wing personalities just saying left-wing stuff. I'll disagree with them. I'll criticize them for it, but it's like, that's their job. What bothers me and what I think bothers most Americans is the facade of neutrality that's kind of still draped over the corpse of these legacy institutions that have actually been hijacked and become partisan institutions. So I think that's the problem I have with all this. I think this is just an extreme example that reveals a much broader rot in mainstream media and is a piece of why trust in these outlets continues to collapse. And I actually think it's a bad thing. I think we need a reliable and trustworthy media. And I think the random internet influencers and sources online that people are turning to instead aren't great and spread a lot of fake information and false narratives. And it would be better if we had a mainstream media people could rely on for a common set of facts. But because of the ideological route, we simply do not, unfortunately. What do you guys think? Are you upset with me for misgendering a school shooter? Let me know in the comments. Make sure you're subscribed if you aren't yet. Do hit that like button while you are at it. Remember, you can listen to the Brad versus Everyone podcast on the go on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you are listening on audio podcasts, do take a second to rate and review the show. It really helps us grow. We're really growing very fast on the audio side, which is awesome. And then also, remember to send in your voicemails for my Voicemail Friday episodes where I react to your woke horror stories, give you advice in your personal life situations, and answer any questions you guys have for me. So up next, guys, more Crazy Town. Today is a day that ends in Y. So we're talking about crazy shit on the Brad versus Everyone podcast. We've got reporting from my friend Ricky Schlott over at the New York Post about an elite college that is offering a class on, quote, how to steal. This is fine. Society's doing great. We're not at all cooked. I think I need a minute. I might need a minute, y'all. Okay, so Ricky reports, New York City college students learning, quote, how to steal as class teaches, quote, line between private property and public good is drawn in blood. Oh? Yeah, comment right now on which New York City-based college is this from, do y'all think? Because it could honestly be so many of them. This could be Fordham. This could be NYU. And then, I mean, honestly, it could be any number of New York City colleges. So Ricky reports, the value of a college degree has been called into question lately, and for good reason, understatement. Parents might be shocked to learn what they're paying for at the new school in Manhattan. Yep. Maybe you guessed that one, maybe you didn't. A 4-year private university where the $60,000 tuition doesn't cover housing. Students at the university's Eugene Lang College of Liberal Arts can learn, quote, how to steal. We actually have the blurb from the syllabus here, or the class catalog, and it's taught in the sociology department, fall 2025, how to steal. Let me just read you this. This field-based seminar, I would love to know what that means. I think that means they go on little field trips, which we'll come back to, explores the politics, ethics, and aesthetics of theft in a world where accumulation is sacred, dispossession is routine, and the line between private property and public good is drawn in blood. Students will critically examine what it means to steal, from whom, for whom, and why, through site visits and fieldwork in places where capital is hoarded and value is contested. Corporate storefronts, grocery chains, museums, libraries, banks, and cultural institutions. This syllabus suggests that libraries are where capital is hoarded. Do words just have no meaning anymore? Last time I don't know, I read digital books now, so I haven't been to a physical library, but I don't remember there being like a ton of venture capitalists like hoarding their money they invest there, or a bunch of business owners keeping the deeds to their what is going on? Anyway, more from this. We will ask, is it possible to steal back what was already stolen? What does theft look like under capitalism, colonialism, and in everyday life? When is theft survival, protest, or care? And when is it violence, appropriation, or harm? A good rule of thumb with these kinds of questions is that the answer is always going to be no. Like, I could be wrong. I haven't been able to sit for this class as much as I might like to. But I'm going to guess the answer is no, that it's not bad. It's fine to steal. It's just, redistributive justice. Or that's definitely the vibe this is giving off. Readings will span critical theory. Wow, I'm shocked. Political economy, abolitionist thought, and radical histories of expropriation and redistribution. Students will produce field journals, collective mappings, and speculative strategies for redistributing wealth, knowledge, and beauty. This is not a course in petty crime. It is a study in moral ambiguity, radical ethics, and imaginative justice. So you can now have the privileged honor of sending your child to an insanely expensive college to learn about how actually stealing is fine and ethical. It's not. Actually, property rights are an extension of human rights because it's the right to keep the fruits of your own life and labor that you invest in taking care of yourself and your family. And eroding property rights is really destructive to a civilization and an economy. Extensively that's studied. But of course, what if the grocery stores are hoarding all the capital? Oh my gosh. So Ricky continues here. I guess it's fitting in New York, where shoplifting loot worth than $1,000 is a mere misdemeanor. Locals don't even bat an eye anymore at the sight of someone walking out of CVS with whatever they want. And get this, it's a 4-credit course, meaning this class alone will cost students or their parents an eye-watering $10,000. That's good. This is fine. Nothing to see here. Guys, obviously this is an extreme example, but if you don't think this kind of thing is commonplace, like my sister, when she was at UConn, would send me pictures of crazy courses from their course catalog. UMass had all sorts of this kind of stuff. When I was there, I see it all the time. And I think, frankly, I believe that a private institution has every right to teach crazy courses if they want, and they have every right to have people pay exorbitant sums. But what I'm not sure is that people should be using government-funded student assistance to attend degrees that really shouldn't meet any basic standard of accreditation. There should be some sort of quality control so that we are not using taxpayer dollars to profoundly miseducate people. I'm not exactly sure how to do that or what form it would take, but there's got to be something you can do to avoid this. And some sort of seriousness or actual credibility should be attached to elite education in America if it's going to get so much of our taxpayer dollars. Just a crazy thought. A little more here from Ricky that shows just how pervasive this kind of bias and ideology is in American universities. Quote, an analysis of more than 1 million syllabi at American universities between 2008 and 2020 found that Karl Marx was more likely to be assigned to students than William Shakespeare or Plato. French postmodernist Michel Foucault topped Enlightenment thinkers Immanuel Kant and John Locke. Novelist Toni Morrison's name was more prevalent than those of Aristotle, political economist John Stuart Mill, Frederick Douglass, and Niccolo Machiavelli. Again, I should be clear, I actually think colleges should assign marks and should assign radical left-wing thought as parts of their catalogs and courses and readings. The problem is that that's primarily what they assign, right? They're not doing it as sort of a balanced look at different perspectives and ideas and arguments. They're just presenting this as truth. I mean, I encountered this over and over again in my courses. Just if you looked at the back of the syllabus at all the readings and everything, you would not find any right-leaning source of any kind in some of these courses, except on the rare occasion where they'd be citing a right-leaning source agreeing with a left-wing perspective. And then that would be their diversity. That happened to me in one of my classes. She's like, well, I cited the Cato Institute, which is right-wing. And then it's something of them agreeing with a liberal perspective. So that's not really the ideological diversity that you're saying it is then. I'm sure it's still great to include, but it's like, what about an actual different perspective? Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm old-fashioned. Because what they're doing is working great. American higher education is on a phenomenal trajectory. Guys, this is why college is becoming more and more of a joke and degrees are having less and less value. Obviously, just one tiny example. But this broader phenomenon, the watering down of academic seriousness in America, contributes to that much bigger problem. What do you guys think? Do you want to sign your child up, your college student age child up for how to steal? Let me know in the comments. Make sure subscribed and hit that like button while you are at it. Up next, we're going to talk about drama consuming little person TikTok, aka TikTok, but I think we're not supposed to say that bad word anymore, where they are up in arms and fighting because one of their own is in trouble. A prominent little person actor who is committing a egregious war crime, massive macro aggression against the trans community by appearing in a Harry Potter HBO show or something. I don't know. Let's take a look at this profound betrayal that's racking up hundreds of thousands of views on TikTok videos complaining about this. Let's listen.
It's just been announced that Warwick Davis, who is probably one of the most well-known actors in the world with dwarfism, is going to be reprising his role as Professor Flitwick in the upcoming Harry Potter series. And as someone with dwarfism, whose entire page is dedicated to commentary on disability and dwarfism issues, I want to discuss this. I'm going to make myself incredibly clear before we get started, because this is not an excuse to bring transphobia onto my page. Trans women are women, and J.K. Rowling is a bigot. I've always said since day one, since this project was announced, that it is unneeded and it is unnecessary. At face value, one could argue that this is a good example of dwarfism representation and that HBO made a smart business move by casting actual little people instead of CGIing them. But for me, all of that fades into the background when someone in our community decides to work with a known bigot, because that choice speaks louder than any casting decision. You cannot argue that something is a good representation if the ethics behind the scenes are not put properly in place. And we know that as marginalized people, all of our struggles are interconnected. And it is very disheartening seeing someone from our own community throw another marginalized group under the bus and treat them as expendable. Because let's be honest, once the attacks start on one marginalized group, it's only a matter of time before they come for the rest of us. And people with dwarfism and disability are not safe just because they decide to pander to right-wing people and ideologies.
Y'all, I cannot take this seriously. You're telling me we've got little person versus little person violence on TikTok. Them in a little, I didn't mean, like just a small, a civil war of a smaller proportion. I'm not even trying to make puns, y'all. Fighting over representation because a actor with dwarfism is participating in an HBO series about Harry Potter where J.K. Rowling, who they've deemed bad, evil, terrible woman for her opinions, is like an executive producer or whatever. How is the left ever going to meaningfully organize or do anything or achieve anything when they just are constantly infighting and canceling each other for the dumbest reasons? Working on a TV series about Harry Potter that has nothing to do with trans people or trans rights, has no ideology or politics, doesn't mean anything. It doesn't harm that community in any way. You're just making stuff up. And this is why people find this kind of like woke perspective and worldview where everything is a question of identity and everything is problematic and all this. Exhausting. Y'all are exhausting. She said her whole page is dedicated to this. Who are the people tuning in? Like, let's see what insignificant minor thing we're getting mad about today. Like, don't y'all exhaust yourselves? Don't you get tired ever of the faux outrage constantly? I see this, on the right wing too, when they're like constantly up in arms over those smallest things. Not everything is that deep and the end of the world. And the funniest thing about this is this almost reminds me of, I think it was Snow White or another movie where like they were so afraid of offending the little people activists that they just CGI'd all the dwarfs. And it's like, okay, well, what if HBO had just CGI'd this person? Would that make you happier? Like, instead of someone in your community getting work and visibility and recognition and being, uplifted. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with little people and dwarfism, and great. Like, maybe I'm not using the right language. I don't know. I'm certainly not trying to be offensive, but I think that community, I think it's, yeah, sure. Like, nobody has hate for them, or nobody should. And if having an actor involved in this HBO series will remind people that, these are real people. They're just like anyone else. It's just a thing that happens. And it's just a normal character, and that's positive representation. Great. Why are we tearing that down over some like imaginary struggle over trans rights that you hallucinated and injected into this unrelated thing? Because I'm sorry, work with a well-known bigot. So what? Every actor is only supposed to ever participate in any project where everyone involved has the same political opinions as them. Seriously? No, that's ridiculous. You can't declare. I mean, I don't agree with everything J.K. Rowling has said about these issues. I think she's become rather toxic and acerbic in some of her rhetoric, and I don't agree with that, though I can understand it because the trans activists have been so horrible to her and attacked her so viciously. But like, her beliefs on this issue, it's not some fringe view. It's a pretty mainstream perspective. And you're going to have to just cope with that, not demand that everyone boycott the existence of problematic people. That's never going to happen. And it's not like it's going to shape anything. She's still going to say what she says about trans stuff. She's still going to give exactly however much money she gives to these groups that are engaging in activism on her side of those issues. She has unlimited money, right? So it's not like boycotting anything is going to make any difference. And then I like literally just think this is false. All struggles are interconnected, except they're not, though. There is nothing about these two ideas that, non-binary identities are valid and sex is just a feeling you have inside, not biology, and kind of the extreme trans stuff that JK originally rebelled against, that has anything to do with little people or accepting people with different conditions or disabilities in society. Like, it's not even a Venn diagram, it's just two circles. These things don't overlap. So they try to do this. They try to make everything about everything. LGBT groups will do this, activist groups. They'll be like, immigration is an LGBT issue because some immigrants are LGBTQ. Well, if everything is an LGBTQ issue, then nothing is an LGBT issue. You get it, right? Like, you can't water things down and expand them so broad without evaporating meaning. And you're doing this by trying to connect trans stuff to little people. The math is not mathing for me. And she's like, and if we don't accept ideas about sex and identity that no one believed until 5 minutes ago, then they'll come for us too, the little people. Will they? I don't think they will, actually. Even if they go totally extreme against trans rights, maybe in ways that I don't support, that doesn't mean they're going to start rounding up little people. Like, the math is not mathing to me. And while it's entertaining for me to watch them, like, it's the Spider-Man meme where they're all pointing at each other with the finger guns constantly on TikTok, it's also exhausting, and it is depressing, because I do think we need like some kind of a serious left or progressive movement in this country, but we just don't have it. Now, obviously, this is a fringe TikTok activist, but I'm saying, like, the broader progressive community they're not doing well, and they can't stop constantly infighting and woke scolding each other and bickering. And until they do, they're not really going to be resisting much in any meaningful way at all. But that's just my take. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Make sure subscribed, hit that like button while you are at it, yada, yada, yada. And with that, guys, that'll be it for today's episode of the Brad vs. Everyone podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in. Remember to send in your voicemails for my Voicemail Friday episodes. Link to send one in is in the description. And with that, guys, we'll talk again real soon.